Is that the biggest recorded fire in the history of humanity?
So that was the Chisholm Fire of 2001. That coincidentally also burned in Alberta, about 200 miles south of Fort McMurray. And it produced a pyrocumulonimbus fire column, which punctured the stratosphere and was mistaken by US military satellite data analysts for a nuclear test in the boreal forest of Canada. And they actually called Canadian authorities and said, "Did you just perform a nuclear test?" And they said, "What are you talking about?" "Well, we have this 45,000 foot tall plume coming up out of the forest in Alberta. But what's up?" That's what it was. That was the Chisholm Fire of 2001. So that to me is kind of the beginning. There were other big fires then, of course, but this one was sort of, with fanfare and a lot of charisma. Welcome to 21st century fire. And so we have had bigger fires since then. And Fort McMurray was certainly a player. California has generated quite a few pyrocumulonimbus fire clouds. We can talk about that in more detail, but those are effectively firestorm systems that perpetuate themselves. And they were effectively unknown to fire science prior to 1998. The only place you would see gigantic lightning generating plumes like that would puncture the stratosphere is over huge volcanoes. Well, now wildfires can generate that same kind of energy. And so that's what we're seeing in California. Not positive the Smokehouse Creek fire generated a pyro-CB, but Canada in 2023, that record fire season that turned New York City orange and basically changed the sunsets all the way to Europe through the summer of 2023. That was the worst fire season in Canadian history. Canada generated by itself 142 pyrocumulonimbus fire systems. And these, were barely on the radar, so to speak, 20 years ago. So we're in a new world now.